Hey, everybody. Yep, it's Wednesday. What's that? It is the day for the Witches Movie Coven. Grab your goat, grab a drink, grab your wand, because it's witches talking about witches in movies. I'm Patti Negri, one of your hosts, and he just popped right in. We have Jason Mankey, we have Richard-Lael Lillard, we have Courtney Buckley, and special guest, one of everybody's favorite, we have Chad Hatter right here. We send our love to Heather. She doesn't have any Wi-Fi, so she doesn't exist. But she'll be back next week. Uh, this week we are talking about the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But why don't we do a little catch up on everything of what's going on? Why don't we first welcome Chad? We haven't seen you in a while. What's going on with you, Chad? Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Everything is great. The summer is blazing hot. I'm doing my absolute best to stay indoors and near air conditioning and only go out at night. And everything is great in my neck of the woods. I've got lots of work. I'm very, very busy, and at some point I hope to have a vacation. So I'm hanging in there.
Yay. Well, you look marvelous.
Thank you. I decided to dress down tonight.
Perfect. And Richard-Lael Lillard, you look spiffy as always.
Oh,
What's new with you?
I'm not actually dressed for the film. I have this, I was in my closet. It's this turn of the century, 1890s, maybe to 1910. It's a morning, what is that?
Stole.
Stole. Yes, it's a morning stole with ostrich. And I just wore it. I thought, why not? I'm not in mourning. I mean, no, I'm not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about the film once we get there. But yeah, I'm okay. Everything is all right. Doing well. Nothing really too exciting. It's the weekend coming up, and it's the 4th of July celebrations, and I don't have anything planned. So maybe I'll stay home and make some potions.
Oh, perfect. Sounds lovely. I'm supposed to eat barbecue, and no, I don't. All right, Courtney, you look amazing as always.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm a bad witch this week, and I did not do my homework. So I thought if I showed up as if it was last week, still in my midsummer gear, with my new Mystery Control midsummer shirt. I don't know if you guys can see this though. Look at how awesome this is in the back. You see the flower crown. I don't know if you can see it. Then at least you guys would excuse me and still let me join the party. So here I am.
You are the party, Courtney. You're always welcome. And Jason flying in with dark glasses last minute.
I am sorry for my almost tardiness. Living in the Bay Area, sometimes your friends get free passes to things in the tech industry. And I was at our local amusement park place, and I just ran inside, still have my sunglasses on. So I'm like kicking it, chilling out, summertime Jason, I guess. I don't know.
And your hair looks great.
I've been riding roller coasters for 2 hours. So my hair is a complete knotted disaster. And I'm really sorry for like the people who are fans of my hair.
No, it works. That knotted disaster look works.
Thank you.
It always works. Well, I have nothing new because I'm working on a book deadline, so I haven't left my computer. And I'm happy to be out in public with all of you guys. So thank you, everybody who's tuning in. All you guys in the chat room, keep it on because we'll throw you on here when we can and when the computer's working. And we want your input about everything, about us, about the movie. Anybody got your goats? We all have our goats. Chad, we have to get you a goat, I think.
Right.
I know I don't have a goat, but I do have I have a ceramic guinea pig. So
I love him.
That's close.
I love them.
Hardly tell the difference.
I know. Yeah, no, it's dead ringer.
All right. We are missing Heather already, so we're waving to her from here. Yes, a book, exciting. It is very exciting. I can't wait. So I'm thrilled to be doing it, but I'm in those last oh wait, my deadline. But it's good. But we did watch this movie. This was a nice little respite. Well, most of us did, and it's okay because you look cute.
Well,
Um,
I brought Heather's book, so I can reference that.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So that is good. So, okay. Do you want to reference it from Heather's book? And I know
Well, let
Richard
me.
wanted to talk
Yeah,
about it too.
I gotta find the page first. So maybe.
Okay, Richard-Lael, you start, and then we'll
While
move
she
over to
is
Courtney.
finding the page, yes, I will talk about the Chronicles of Narnia. It is a story that was published in 1950 about these 4 orphan children who were sent to the countryside of England during the bombing blitz of London, which happened from 1940 to 1941. And while they're out in the country, they of course are in this country manor house, and they are housing with a professor and the housekeeper. The housekeeper wants to make certain that he is not disturbed. So she is always fussing and making things sort of difficult on these poor orphaned children. And they go to play games, they go to play hide and seek, and one of them ends up in this wardrobe, and beyond the wardrobe is this magical world of Narnia, where she encounters Mr. Tumnus, who is a satyr. And then, of course, nobody believes her until a baseball crashes through the window, and they all have to hide because now they've disturbed the professor. They get into this wardrobe, and they find out that this little girl was not lying, that she was in fact telling the truth, and that there was a mysterious world. Now, the other brother had somehow joined at one point too, and met the knockoff of Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. That's another story for another day, but she actually ends up by being the villain. These 4 and are prophesied to be there. They're the 4 gospels, as you would have it. But the 4 go on to be kings and queens, and they fight with Aslan, who is the true ruler of Narnia, who's this anthropomorphic talking lion who sacrifices himself and then is resurrected again, and met by the 2 girls, and they have lived these wonderful adult full lives, and they forget, and then in the end they find themselves back at the lamppost, and they go, wow, this really is familiar, and then they all come tumbling out as children again. The end. Next book.
Well, thank you very much. I used to have a cat named Aslan. Yes, I did. He looked like a lion, so that was his name. Not that I was even over a big fan of it. It's just that my cat looked like a lion, so his name had to be Aslan. So, Courtney, did you find your pages?
All right, so she mentions The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on page 337 under Teen Witchery and the Enchanted Child. So she talks about teen-focused narratives were not limited to Here, I'll hold this up so you can see it. We're not limited to supernatural horror. Teen witchery could be found in lighter family fare on television and on the big screen. Before going further, it is important to note that the concept of the teen audience ranges from preteens or tweenies, ages 9 to 12, through young adults in their mid-20s. The exact range varies from study to study, with the broadest being from age 9 to 24. And it's this range that applies best to witch productions, considering both the target audience and the age of the characters. For example, Twitches from 2005, a popular film with tweens, tells the story of 21-year-old women, while youth horror such as Witches of the Caribbean was decidedly aimed at the older sector of this demographic. Family-friendly genres contained witch-centered productions that appealed specifically to preteens. Lighter teen witch fare began to emerge by 2005, and despite the popularity of some productions, they never overtake the popularity of the darker narratives. Most non-horror teen witchery films or shows were produced in the wake of other popular witchcraft-related productions, predominantly Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the Harry Potter books and films, and epic fantasy films like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. These witchlight productions offered witchcraft narratives and enchanted realms. And then she goes on to talk about the industry capitalizing on the popularity of teen fantasy. And she says that in all of these contemporary teen witch narratives, the witch is not an outcast. The productions are not focused on the negotiation of magical boundaries or the acceptance of one's natural power. The teens are in search of their true identity.
And you did mention epic. And since you brought up the word epic, I think we should also mention briefly Epic Movie, which was, I think, 2007. It was basically these 4 orphans. Epic Movie, here it is. These four orphans from 4 different movies: Snakes on a Plane, Nacho Libre, I think is what it was. Anyway, they end up by meeting Willy Wonka. He's not Willy because it's copyrighted, but they meet Willy, and he ends up, of course, being creepy. They hide from him in a closet. They hide from him in the wardrobe, and of course, then they go to Narnia, where they meet Captain Jack Swallows. I didn't pick this up. That's the character's name. So I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's stupid, but if you want a good laugh, go to this one. Also, I love Jennifer Coolidge. Is that her name?
Yes.
Jennifer Coolidge plays the
Stifler's mom.
But she also plays the White Witch.
Jennifer Coolidge is great in everything Jennifer Coolidge does.
She's fabulous.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
And yes, I just wanted to repeat what Robert just said, that Heather really didn't write about this very movie. It was mentioned there because it isn't an American film. She hasn't done her other country book yet. So we'll have to get that out of her. But
we needed to channel whatever her words were regarding it because we miss her. So
we miss her completely.
I took on that burden.
Heather's not here?
I hope I did her justice.
You can't see because of the sunglasses.
Yes, it's tough. It's
Too
tough.
dark.
I'm hiding my sunburn is what I'm trying to do.
We can still see it. We can
yeah.
still see it.
I can feel it on my face.
We can see sunburn even though you can't.
I love the Chronicles of Narnia. I have to start by saying that I love these books. I read them in 7th grade. I reread them in college, and I've reread them as an adult, and I still find them enchanting. I like them much more than Harry Potter. It appeals to me in a much better way. Like anybody can walk into a closet and come out in Narnia. Not everybody is born a magician. I think that the magic in Narnia is much easier to access, which is probably why I like it more.
I agree. And then you can, in my case, one can go in the closet and then blow the closet doors out, come out of the closet, which is my mantra.
Happy Pride.
I was told when I was in high school, I was told, Chad, you might be in the closet, but the door is wide open. And I always, I am not a subtle human. So I love that even when I've adopted a much more dark, style of dress as an adult. But when I was younger, most of my clothing was covered in glitter. So.
I love it.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Your hat's fabulous, Chad.
Yes.
I made it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
Okay, so I feel like high church evangelicals. Yeah, talking about the church, I didn't read the book when I was young. I didn't do anything. And the first time I saw a play about it, it was a church production, one of those big evangelical churches. They practically didn't even call Aslan. It was Jesus. This is Jesus. And I was like, it was, so I just saw it as this big, weirdly dressed Christian story.
And and that's the same thing. I watched the first film in 1988. I hadn't read the books. It was just not something that really appealed to me. But I watched the first film in 1988 when it came out. I think it came out and then it went to VHS, so it must have been like 89. Anyway, I was a kid. And I was watching with my sister we were at this evangelist home in Tennessee. And my mother says, "Oh, what are you watching?" And we said The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But I said, it's a very Christian film. It's very Christian. And my sister said, "No, it's not." And I went, "It's not?" But he dies and comes back to life. And and then he's met by 2 girls, which is the 2 women at the tomb. Is that not? It's not the story of Jesus? No, it's not the story of Jesus.
It's not the story of Jesus. First of all, it's a lion. All right. It's not Jesus. Secondly, Jesus dies for everyone's sins. Aslan dies for Edmund's mistake. Only Edmund's mistake. He's not dying for all of Narnia. C.S. Lewis said he did not write it as a Christian allegory. Certainly, you can see that in there, but there's also all these pagan elements throughout the Chronicles of Narnia.
Absolutely.
Dionysus is a major player in Prince Caspian, and then you're watching The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, full of talking animals, not necessarily completely
And
pagan, but a faun,
the
right? The
satyr. Yep.
satyr. The satyr at the very beginning, Mr. Tumnus. I mean, it doesn't get much more pagan than something that looks like Pan.
And not only what I did love about that, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jason, but what I loved about that was that it's so easy for people who are Christian to paint something that looks like Pan, a satyr, a faun as the devil. And he didn't. So I will. Oh, this is, speaking of painting as the devil, this is in my tarot card my tarot decks that I'm working on. And this is my hermit card. This is, so I based it, I actually based it on Mr. Tumnus, even though I'm going to spoil, I'm not a huge fan of the books, but I really loved Mr. Tumnus. That was one of the first things that let me knew that I could come out of the closet when he came out in 1988, and he was all in the cold, and he had just that scarf around his neck, and he was covered in fur. I went, yes, please.
I just have to point out that the portrayal of Mr. Tumnus in this film is particularly well done. And I don't mean like the CG. I just mean he looks like he would taste delicious. The whole sequence with him, with the music and him, lulling her to sleep, it's so unsettling. And it's just the right amount of unsettling. And then you've got that moment in the fireplace where the vision of Aslan appears in the fire and is like, knock it off. And it's so well done. And him, I have to piggyback what Richard-Lael said about, he's wearing nothing but a scarf. Ultimately, I love the image of him with all of his daily shopping, his packages tied up in paper, with his umbrella from the, to hide from the snow. It's so British. It's so English. And it's like so countryside English. And it's delightful. It's so delightful.
It is beautiful. I must say that I enjoyed, again, it's one of those visuals that I enjoyed, and I got to see it on not my phone, not a doll, and not my phone movie watching. But again, the first time I saw it, it wasn't the movie, it was a play, and it was done by Evangelical Church. I went with my friend because she said, just come see a play with me. But they did ask everybody if they wanted to accept Jesus as their savior at the end of the play. It was that. It was like, okay.
Aslan, maybe. Jesus, not so much my thing, like, give me options here. That would be much better.
They didn't have options. So
Yeah.
when I saw the movie, I'm like, oh, this is just a good movie, not proselytizing, whatever. But Jason C.S. Lewis wrote it as that. I'm just saying.
And it is thought, actually, in my research, it was basically because Jason had posted something about was C.S. Lewis, was it just Christian propaganda, or was he a secret pagan? And then I thought, I actually never thought of that, Jason. Thank you so much for that. So I did a little research, and there are a lot of Christian groups that are actually trying to ban his books and movies because they think that he is a pagan. Sincerely, for the fact that there is the satyr, there is Dionysus, there are all of these pagan animals.
Well, I mean, and Father Christmas as well. There's a lot of evangelicals that look at that as idol worship. And so the inclusion of Father Christmas as a character also is a hindrance. And it's interesting. Jason, I love this theory, because it does feel like Christian ideology wrapped up in, magical, whimsical stuff. But the reverse also is true. It could be pagan ideology wrapped up inside of a Christian narrative. That's delicious. I love that.
I can't take credit for thinking of it. So there's
yes, but you took the time to share it. So
Ronald Hutton writes about C.S. Lewis and Tolkien not necessarily being secret pagans, but at least pagan sympathetic. They were very much interested in ancient pagan religions, and it comes through in both of their work, whether it's Narnia or the story of hobbits and Middle Earth. And it's really not out of bounds, particularly in that period, and especially a little bit before, where people were paying a lot of lip service to Christianity because they probably felt like they had to, but there was something missing in their religious worship. So they kind of filled in the blanks with paganism. Like one of the reasons the Greek god Pan is so popular is because of 19th century romantic poetry. When people begin to feel disconnected from the earth, they, that Jesus is not a very good conduit for that, right? So they start writing poetry about Pan. And they would have never said that I'm a pagan and I worship Pan, but the sentiment to me always felt like worship. And I think, I'm not saying that the sentiment in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe necessarily feels like worship, but he's extremely sympathetic, I think, to ancient pagan ideals and to like magical ideas. I mean, there's certainly some Christian stuff in there. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I think, is pretty Christian, more so maybe than The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But it's always balanced out by this other sort of magical pagan world that a lot of us feel comfortable in.
But can we also take a brief moment to go back to the fact that he completely ripped off Hans Christian Andersen and the Snow Queen?
Yes.
I have to disagree. Because the Snow Queen's not necessarily a villain. It's kind of ambiguous as to like her intentions and what exactly she's doing, because the kid gets the mirror shard in him and she takes him to the north, and then Gerda goes on that journey to find him, and blah 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 blah. I think the idea of winter being personified as a frigid woman. I caught a frigid witch. I think that is something that exists in multiple cultures, multiple ideologies, and so it's hard. I can't say that it's a 1-to-1 ripoff. There feels like it. There's
maybe not a 1-to-1, but I think they're definitely cousins.
Could be. Oh yeah, definitely. It's just the main thing is that Jadis uses winter to exert control, whereas the Snow Queen is an agent of winter. So it's the impetus behind the two of them. In the Snow Queen, they talk about how she's part of like the balance, right? Because you have to have winter in order to have this, in order to that, and she's the queen of the snow bees, and snowflakes are snow bees, and blah 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 blah. And the grandma goes on the whole thing about who the Snow Queen is, and the White Witch never really. It always irked me when people when they would refer to her as the Snow Queen, because she's not. She wants to be Queen of Narnia. She uses winter for control, but she's not, because if you've read the other books, you know where she comes from, and she has her origin story has nothing to do with winter. She just literally is she's a spoiler alert, she's a person from another dimension that wants to rule this one, who sort of ends up there completely by accident, and she's indirectly responsible for the very magic that Aslan uses against her when he sacrifices himself to save Edmund, because she, being power hungry, and that's a theme that exists in everything. J.K. Rowling did the same thing in Harry Potter, where Harry's mother sacrifices herself to save Harry, and then it puts this protective charm on him, and then when Voldemort tries to steal it to make it part of himself, he doesn't do
I don't watch that, but you're not supposed to say that name.
Oh, right. I won't mention her again. I'm so sorry. I won't mention her again. I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, her name too.
Yeah. Speaking of frigid witches, but I do have to say though, and this is my only contribution, is the character design of every single person in the movie is brilliant, and the costume design of Tilda Swinton as the White Witch is just phenomenal. And one of my favorite, and everyone knows this bit of information, but I'm going to say it anyway, but as her power begins to wane, her crown melts, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And my other favorite thing about it is that when she rides into battle, because she's real petty, she's wearing Aslan's mane as part of, if you didn't notice that thing, that fur mantle that she has on is the hair that she cut off of him when she kills him. And I love that, because what a middle finger to his entire army. I'm wearing part of your leader. Like that's just, it's so mean.
And it's Tilda Swinton, who's just amazing in pretty much everything she does. But she really knocks it out of the park in this movie. Like anytime she's on screen, like you just can't help but stare at her. She's just so otherworldly. And she looks like she's 12. And yet I think she was about 40 when this movie was made, because she's in her 60s now. And like, you would
think
never
she might
that.
be a vampire.
Yeah,
she doesn't
exactly.
age.
Yeah.
And you can't find photos of her as a child. So
she never was a child. She's Tilda
exactly.
Swinton. She's just born like Tilda Swinton. You just come into the world fully formed. I am Tilda. Hear me roar.
Yeah, her dress was amazing. Her out, and it did. Besides that, she melted. It kept getting darker too.
It does. So at the beginning of the movie, and her dress is made like the fabric. I've seen it in person, and I couldn't even begin to describe what that thing. It's like a religious experience seeing it in person, because it's all these layers of gossamer and silk that have been shredded and burned and felted and worked back on themselves, and it's, if you notice, the darkness within the dress creeps from the bottom up. And I remember reading somewhere that they had something like 9 versions of the dress, and the people doing continuity had to pay very close attention to where they were in the story, so that if they had to go back and do reshoot. In fact, hold please.
Do 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 do.
I was given as a gift this book, which is The Art of Disney Costuming. I don't know if you can see it. There.
Oh, beautiful.
And it is full of misinformation. But I'm going to see real quick. I believe that the White Witch is in here, and I may be able to give you a bit more insight on her dress, assuming that the information in here is correct, because a lot of the information in here is not. Let's see. There's Maleficent, because at the end of the day, it is a Disney film. And which is remarkable that they would do something so overtly kind of antithetical to what they do.
But no princesses, only queens.
I'm sorry, you all can talk amongst yourself while I do.
Brad, Rob is asking, is it in the Icons of Darkness collection?
It is not. At least, and that's only because by the time this movie came along, Disney had kind of wised up about the sort of what they had and what, that people want these things. And they, so they actually created their own sort of, to say museum is not really correct, but there is a tour of costumes that Disney put out that is supposed to be heroes and villains, and her outfit is there. And the one that is on, because I've seen it in person, and the one that's on display is the version where she's got all the fur that's draped across the it's the one that she's wearing when she first meets Edmund. And it has this whole plaque that talks about the inspiration of the design, but doesn't talk about the construction of it, which I found to be very irritating, because I want to know how these things are made. But and it has, and you can't tell because the dress is melting, but the one that she's wearing when she meets Edmund has an enormous train on it that just pools in the bottom of the sleigh, or sledge as they call it in the book. I don't know if they call it that in the movie, but in the book they call it a sledge.
Mention it. I don't remember them mentioning sleigh or sledgehammer or what. Sledge.
Yeah.
Chad, I could listen to you talk about costumes all day. I'm like sitting here, like just taking it in, like living vicariously through your excitement. You're enchanting when you talk about this.
That's fair. Well, thank you. I always thought I was irritating as all get out, but if someone is enjoying it, then it makes it completely worthwhile, because
and he's very good. I will say I have to brag. I mean, not that hat is beautiful that he made, but you should see some of the other things that he's made. I'm sure there'll be time.
There'll be time. Wands up to Chad's costuming.
Absolutely, all the way up.
And discussions of. Did you find what you were looking for?
No, dash it all. I'm very upset because I know that the costume is in the exhibition, but if it's in here, it's under the wrong category, because I already went through the villains and it wasn't there. And now I'm going through like the anti-heroes. Here's Mother Ginger from the Nutcracker. Yeah, it's not in here. That is an absolute travesty. But then again, I did say that the book is full of misinformation, which is really unfortunate, because the person that they had, I'll be honest, the person that they had write it knows nothing about costume design, and the people that he chose to interview were incorrect. But anyway, so having seen the costume in person, I will tell you that the one thing that it is devoid of, which I was really surprised by when I saw it, is there's no beadwork, there's no crystals, there's no sparkle. It's all just it's snow if you're looking at snow at twilight. So there's no, it doesn't glisten, it doesn't glitter. And I can only assume that the reason why they did that is because there was so much green screen that they would have done, it would have reflected it, and that would have been a problem. Because a lot of times when you have something that's green screen, if any part of the garment is reflective, it picks up on it, and then that is more CG that the technicians have to worry about as they're filming. So, but it is a gorgeous costume. It is an absolutely gorgeous costume. And I love the way Father Christmas is designed as well, because he's very Nordic. He's very medieval. He's not your typical Santa Claus at all. And I've seen many stage productions of this where they make him a Coca-Cola Santa, and it just, I can't be bothered.
How do you really feel? Thank you. All right. So we like the dress. Moving on. And oh
There
yeah.
she is.
Oh, God. She's like a big evil snow cone. I love it.
Gorgeous. Let's move to the animals. I like these talking animals. I don't always like talking animals.
It
Nobody
works in the context of Narnia, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like the beavers like bring you in. I feel weird saying beaver like this, but the beavers bring you in like from the very start, right? And they seem to have expressions, and the voice acting is really good. I also really like the animals.
Yeah, I did too.
I have to say too, when Aslan speaks, I kept wanting Aslan to say, "I don't know where you are, but I will find you. I will make you." It's Liam Neeson.
I could not, if you were to say who would you pick to voice Aslan, there's a very short list of people I would pick, and Liam Neeson was absolutely the thank you, Alicia. But he's just it. I could listen.
I don't know.
to him.
I think I would have really liked Samuel L. Jackson.
But here's the thing: or Morgan Freeman would have been amazing as well.
Yes, Morgan Freeman. Yes, but Samuel L. Jackson. Yes.
Dropping
See,
some
we're
F-bombs
doing this on purpose
from
because
Aslan.
we can't quote him.
Yeah.
I don't know, because then we would have gone, oh, that's Samuel L. Jackson, or oh, that's Morgan Freeman. Here you didn't just go, oh, that's Liam Neeson.
That is true. Yeah, that is very true.
Liam Neeson has that big voice, and there's gravitas to it, but there's also there's very real empathy in his voice, right? Like he can play those quieter parts, or those parts where it feels like he's giving the children a hug really well. When my wife and I were watching the movie, we were like, I just can't imagine anybody but Liam Neeson being Aslan. And apparently it was a role that he really wanted. Like he politicked to get the role. He wasn't their first choice.
No, the little known fact, first choice was actually Gilbert Gottfried.
Well, that's what C.S. Lewis intended. Yeah.
She doesn't know the deeper, greater, ancient magics. She didn't know that. Yeah, that would have been terrible. I mean,
I love that it cuts to a picture of C.S. Lewis while we're talking about Gilbert Gottfried.
yeah.
Oh, but can we talk about real quick about Jim Broadbent as Professor Diggory?
Yes.
Like,
Slughorn.
he's one of my favorite character actors, and if you know who he is within the overarching story of all the books, perfect casting choice. Absolutely perfect casting choice.
I have no idea who he is, who the professor is.
Can I spoil it? Can I spoil it for everyone?
Yes, please spoil it, because I haven't read anything past Narnia.
The books chronologically do not come out in order, because The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was the first one. And I want to say, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, the second one is The Magician's Nephew, right?
In chronological order?
Yeah, in order in which they came out.
No, Prince Caspian came out second.
So
Magician's Nephew is like sixth.
It's earlier than that. I want to say maybe third. But the point is that one of the books that comes out later in the series is a prequel.
Yeah.
Called The Magician's Nephew, where the professor, it's either Diggory Kirk or Kirk Diggory. I want to say Kirk. His name is Kirk. I want to say. I'm going to go with that.
Cameron. Diggory Kirk
Cameron. Right. Okay. So Kirk Cameron. No, but he, as a child, is sent to live with his uncle, who is a magician, but what he's doing is he's conducting very specific scientific experiments to try to figure out how to move from our dimension into another. And what he does is he creates these large multicolored rings, and he tests them on literal guinea pigs. I'm holding up my guinea pig. He tests them on guinea pigs. And he basically... Say what?
I just was going to say, I know there's a guinea pig in the room. Bring him in.
Exactly. So he creates these rings, and I want to say they're red and green, and the green one takes you to another dimension. The red ones bring you back. It is number 6. Wow, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, anyway.
No, it's okay because it doesn't make any sense that it's number 6.
No, it's absurd.
It does.
Yeah. But what happens is, through a series of events, the Kirk and a lady friend of a young girl that he's friends with end up touching the rings, and they wake up in an interdimensional nexus point that is a forest filled with ponds, little tiny pools of water, and there's guinea pigs everywhere because his uncle, the magician, was testing on guinea pigs, and so they'd pop into this world between worlds, and they weren't able to come back because they're guinea pigs. You can't say touch the red ring when you want to come back. They're guinea pigs. So they find out that by jumping into a pool, each pool is a portal to another dimension. And so they end up in all these different dimensions, and one of the ones that they end up in, who are frozen like statues, sitting in chairs, and the world is kind of post-apocalyptic, and it's breaking apart and all this and that. And in one like chapel, kind of big grand hall thing, there's all these people that are lined up, and there's a bell in the middle of the room. And Kirk makes the mistake of ringing the bell, and when he rings the bell, one of the figures lining the walls wakes up, and she is who eventually becomes the White Witch, because she starts chasing them through the worlds because they're trying to get away from her. And I forget, Jason, jump in because I forget the finer points of the plot, but there's at one point they end up in a reality where there is nothing. And at one point they end up in London, and the woman Jadis, who becomes the White Witch, grabs the arm of a lamppost and breaks it off because she's got this like superhuman strength, and she's using it as a club to try to attack them. And when they end up in this world between worlds, they start hearing this sound, and it's someone singing, and it's Aslan. And he sings Narnia into existence. So as he's creating Narnia, they're not supposed to be there. It's a complete accident that they're there. But things that are in this reality are placed there, and then they grow. And Jadis drops the arm of the lamppost, and it grows into a lamppost. So at one point, Aslan is like, y'all have created a problem here. This woman is evil. We need to do something. Travel to this location. You will find a tree there with apples. Don't eat any of them, but bring me one of them. So they go off. They find the tree. It's loaded with silver apples, and Jadis has beaten them there, and she's like chowing down on them, which they were specifically told not to do. And if I remember, there's a passage in the book that talks about how her mouth is stained brown from eating the apples, but they get the apple. They get the apples, they bring them to Aslan, he drops one of them, it grows a new tree, and that tree creates this barrier that she cannot pass. So she's trapped in this like northernmost point of Narnia by this magical barrier that the tree creates, and they end up bringing an apple back to our reality, which Kirk plants, and it grows like very quickly into a tree, but it's not a normal apple tree, it's otherworldly and weird. Like there would be days where the weather would be doing nothing, but the tree would be moving like it was stuck in a windstorm because it is connected to Narnia. So things that are happening to its sister and brother trees in Narnia, it reacts to. At one point, the tree falls down. It gets knocked over, I think, by a windstorm. And so Kirk has it made into a wardrobe. Which is why when you look at the production design of this film and you see the wardrobe, it has an apple tree carved into the front of it, because that is the production team's reference to the magician's nephew and the origin of the wardrobe. That's why at the end of this movie, when she's like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe me," he's like, "Try me," because he knows where the wood of that wardrobe came from. He knows the origin of it. And so that's why he, in the books, when they tell him the story, he's like, no, it makes perfect sense. And the kids are like flabbergasted that he believes them, because the housekeeper doesn't and the gardener doesn't, other people don't believe them about this magical adventure. And he has this great quote where he says, yeah, you could turn a corner and end up in another dimension and not even know it. And so there's a lot of elements at play within the overarching narrative of these stories, more so than just the religious allegory, which ultimately is a very small part of it. Dawn Treader is the worst, where they get to the end of the world and Aslan's like, you're not going to come here anymore. You need to learn my name in your own reality, Jesus. There's that's the worst one. The rest of them, there's so much going on. It's brilliantly written. It is a level of storytelling I aspire to, because, and you can't really tell, either he planned all of this, wrote it out of sequence, and did it on purpose so that you as the reader are finding the breadcrumbs and putting the trail together yourself, or Homeboy's just really good at retconning, because there's so many things that happen. Like the lamppost growing in the forest is the only one of its kind. Why? Well, this idea of a new world dawning and things are brought to it to create life is not necessarily, the way the world is created in a biblical sense. God just kind of is like, and, things happen. But this idea that Aslan is cherry picking things to create this new world. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's all the books. It's genius. It's absolute genius. And so there are a lot of people that are like, nah, Christian. And I'm like, I can't get entirely behind writing it off, simply because there's so many more elements of it that feel subversive when it comes to magic and creation and, clockmaker theory, that God got the world going and then left. That's what Aslan does. He builds reality, and then he builds Narnia, and then he leaves. There's so many other, I could go on for hours. I'm so sorry. You other people should be talking. I'll be quiet.
I've never understood why they don't get mad at Aslan. He leaves for 100 years, right? I mean,
yeah,
I would have been like, where the heck is this jerk face, right? I mean, why isn't he doing anything?
The implication is that God is God. Boom. So in Narnia, he is their God figure, but he leaves to go check on it's implied that he goes and checks on other worlds and then kind of does his rounds, right?
Right. Yeah, he's got lots of things going on, but still, as a resident of Narnia, I would have been a little angry. I mean, not getting Christmas for 100 years, that really blows.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
I hate Christmas, so that would be fine for me. That would be perfect for me. Bah, humbug. That's what I say.
It's the most
but Christmas in Narnia is much more hedonistic, because they're like, yeah, we want presents and we want food, and that's what they focus on. It has nothing to do with anything religious. They literally just want to party.
It's more Roman Saturnalia than it is Christmas.
Agreed. Yeah.
And Susan and Lucy go to a Bacchanalia in Prince Caspian. I mean, it's a pretty happening place.
Yeah. Okay. And anybody else have anything to say before we vote?
I get why, though, that they have the God figure disappearing, because and then I also understand why it was a little preachy, because again, they just experienced World War II. They just experienced the bombing blitz of London. They experienced the atrocities that happened in Berlin. They witnessed it, and so a lot of people were really, really scared of everything. It even led to the Red Scare. The communists were coming. So, it was. I understand why it was put in there, but it's not my favorite.
It also mirrors so much of what C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien did mirrors traditional fairy tale structure. And if you look at early Charles Perrault was the one that wrote the version of Cinderella that had the fairy godmother, and it actually predates the Grimm's version by, I want to say 80 years, I think. But there is, in most adaptations of Cinderella, there is a moment where she questions why the fairy godmother, why weren't you around other times I needed you? And my favorite version is fairy tale theater, Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theater from the late 80s, early 90s, where Jean Stapleton is playing the fairy godmother. And Cinderella says, my stepsisters tied me to the banister once and have been really awful. Why weren't you around? And the fairy godmother's like, you have to look after yourself. There's not always a magical fix to things. And so to me, the parallel of Aslan not being around to always deal with everything kind of mirrors that, because if he was around to always save the day, then I would imagine life would be boring and also maybe easier, and maybe not so many people would have been turned to stone.
I don't know. It's really just more of a flippant comment from me, right? I mean, I wasn't necessarily like looking for like a deep theological long discussion. It was just sort of a dumb, silly thing to say, which I'm prone to do on this show, is to say dumb, silly things.
Yes, but the problem is I like talking. So if I see an avenue where I can like jump in and pontificate for 45 minutes, I'm gonna.
If we're talking about Narnia, though, we cannot leave this discussion, though, without talking about Narnia's weird cousin, Fillory. If any of you have read if you watch the TV show The Magicians, that takes place in Fillory, which is basically Narnia, but they can't use Narnia, where an adult is obsessed with a kid's book his whole life and then gets to go to this place where these very Narnia-like things happen. Magician was the name of the first book, and all of the books are fabulous, and the TV show is also fabulous. I love it so much, but it's like the adult version of Narnia, like Narnia
but they're not even
After
subtle.
Dark.
They get to the nexus between worlds, and instead of pools, it's fountains.
Yes.
So if the fountain gets turned off, you can't go back to that world. They're really, and then instead of the magic rings, there's things that are like enchanted to get you in and out of those realities, and one of them is a button, and so they keep it in a glass Victorian pill case so that you don't touch it unless you need to, because if you so much as bump into it, you'll portal there immediately. But yeah, they're not subtle at all. It is, and instead of a wardrobe, it's a grandfather clock that's got these two ram's heads carved in the top of it.
And there's a professor, but he's an abusive professor who takes their stories and turns them into books like the kids.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Which also is a bit of a ripoff of Hook, where Granny Wendy mentions that, Sir James M. Barrie next door heard us talking about our adventures and he wrote them down. And so nothing new under the sun.
But brilliant. If you like Narnia, though, you have to read the Fillory books.
They're great.
Well, the magician books. But
yeah.
Because they're really not called the Fillory books. I wish he would write the Fillory books, though.
I agree. That is something as supplemental material would be amazing.
Yeah. I have dreams.
All right. So anybody else have anything else to say? And again, we're listening to all your comments over there. That is great. Before we vote on.
Have we really talked about if we liked the movie? Like any of us have liked the movie? Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about the movie, but I mean, I always want to see if Richard-Lael hates or likes something.
Oh, that's right. So let's go through there. I'll start. I love the movie. So moving on. I liked it. It was pretty. I like talking animals. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Courtney.
I feel like I've seen it now, so I can say based on what I've heard tonight, I like it.
Okay, Chad.
Oh, it's a good time. Yeah, if you want an adventure with beautiful production design, the music is grand. Tilda Swinton. I could make an entire religion just around Tilda Swinton if I want. In fact, I might. I mean, look at her. Like that, just everything about it, the Celtic inspiration of her hairdo, the crown, the ice, the dress, the short sleeves, so bold for winter. Yeah, no, good time. Two enthusiastic thumbs up from me.
Okay. Jason.
I was surprised at how well the movie held up, having not seen it for over 10 years. I remember watching it at midnight when it came out the first time and liking it, but I think, 13, 15, almost 20 years now after it originally came out, I think it holds up really well, and I found myself really, really, really liking it.
Okay. And on what we're waiting for, Richard-Lael.
I didn't mind it.
Your wardrobe change is even better now, Courtney.
I need you to have a shirt that says "I can't be bothered." I didn't mind it, and I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered. No, it was okay. it was not my favorite. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. It was okay. It was pretty. It was very pretty. But mind you, I kept going back to 1988 and being there with all of the evangelicals, in this, it was in Tennessee. But I couldn't help but be pulled back into that sort of time. And so it's tainted a little bit for me, but I didn't mind it. It was okay. I didn't mind it. It was okay.
A lot of those t-shirts. So, all right. Well, then you've got what we have. So we're going to now vote wands up or wands down. And everybody, all you out there, Alicia, Tabitha, Bessie, Robert, wands up or wands down? Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Courtney doesn't count today because she didn't see the movie.
Right,
so we're almost unanimous. Really.
We are almost unanimous.
I can say by what I've heard that I would probably love it. So
Yes.
I'll go with this.
Okay, well, we are almost unanimous. So which is rare for us. It is very rare for us. So,
and I tell you, I would have voted it a lot more harshly, excepting for the comments that Jason and Chadwick have said. So you made me change my vote from meh to here. It's a good film.
all right. And in the chat room, we got wands up, wands up, wands up, wands up, wands up. I conquer, and definitely wands way up. So, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, everybody. If we've intrigued you and you haven't watched it, check it out.
Prince Caspian is good after this. Dawn Treader less so. Sadly, that was the last of the movies they made. The contract that Walden Media, who was making the movies with the C.S. Lewis estate, it expired, and they didn't make any more. They were going to make The Magician's Nephew next, and it's, I think, one of the great tragedies of films.
I will say that there is a cameo of Tilda Swinton in Prince Caspian where Jadis does not show up in the book, but they added something with her that is, it's a really good scene. It is a delightful scene, and Tilda's acting in it, when you remember that she was acting in a room full of green screen without the kids there to play off of, is brilliant. Like her moment is pretty great, and it gives a nice little redemptive arc to Edmund, who is usually just the worst. So
Okay, so we win on this one. Wands up. Next week, we actually have all decided in advance what we are going to watch next week. Next week, we are watching The Warlock. I don't know when it's from. Does anybody know when?
1988.
1988.
Gosh, my wife is going to be excited about this one.
And it's also because the star just passed away. So, we wish him a good journey into wherever he's off. But
Traveler.
But he was definitely a traveler, and so he, as sort of an honor to him, we'll play Warlock. And it's also good to have male witches, male magic, once in a while.
Definitely. So you guys check it out. We know it's available online, or we won't do it. So it's available. If you can't buy it, we can't. There's so many films that other ones we just are waiting on because we can't get them online yet. But you guys check out The Warlock. Anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about? Any events? Any books? Any shows?
I do.
Yes.
I will be in. I'll be in Youngstown, Ohio, the end of October, and in September, the 2nd of September, rather, I'll be in Atlanta for the Debauchery Ball. So there's that. And you can find me, of course, on anywhere the Gentleman Psychic is sold. So you can find me all over the webs that way. I'm really easy to find. Oh, yes, I want to talk about this. You can go on to mysterycontrol.com. You can sleep with me. Thousands of people have. So now you can sleep with me in other ways. And then you can find me also at University Magicus, where I will be teaching real life magic.
Perfect. And yes,
I ordered. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I ordered my Richard-Lael pillow, and it is on the way.
And here's a secret just for you guys. Anything on Mystery Control, which you can get Witches Movie Coven, you can get Scared and Alone, you can get Richard-Lael's whole series, you can get my Spellcaster series, you can get my Patty's Power Panties. And if you use the code Patty, you can get 25% off. We're practically giving it to you. You can get it, I didn't mind it, on your very own shirt. So Mystery
I
Control.
also have, I just to share with everybody, I purchased this on Mystery Control as well. This is a Scared and Alone shirt. It's in the Scared and Alone collection. It's from our episode that we did at the Villisca Axe Murder House. And this is the beautiful painting that Richard-Lael made during the episode.
Yep.
And that's my next tattoo, is that red axe that Richard-Lael made.
Thank you. And while you're there, do you have anything coming up you want to talk about, Courtney?
No, I'm just acclimating to summer life. But I will be, hopefully, as my life calms down and I head into summer, I will be streaming some more horror games on Twitch. So you can find me at The Fiends on all the socials, including Twitch. Keep your eyes peeled for new episodes of Scared and Alone when they come out. You can watch me as Ghostbait on there at scaredandalone.com. And to fill the void until then, you can watch past episodes, including the Villisca Axe Murder House episode. But other than that, I'm just, trying to manage my time wisely so that I can watch all these lovely witch movies, which I clearly did not succeed at this week. But next week is a new week. So
New week. Perfect. Jason.
July 11th through 16th, I will be in Southern Ohio at the Starwood Festival, which is a magical week of camping, live music, lots of workshops. I'll be doing rituals and workshops all week. And then in August 7th through the 13th, I will be at the Sacred Harvest Festival in Minnesota. I think it's about 90 minutes north of Minneapolis. So those are the next two big things on the agenda. So it's always very exciting to go on the road and do festivals.
Thank you. Chad, anything else that we can know about? What are you doing?
Well, I'm actually, the hat that I'm wearing, right, is a replica of Cynthia Erivo's Elphaba hat from the film adaptation of Wicked. And this broom is also a replica of her broom from the film adaptation of Wicked, which which wraps filming in a couple of weeks. But I'm actually in the middle of creating a large amount of costumes from the film that I'm taking to San Diego Comic-Con at the end of July. So weekend of July 21st, if anyone's at San Diego Comic-Con, there will be Glinda will be there, Elphaba will be there, the Wizard will be there, Madame Morrible will be there, as well as 4 very obnoxious flying monkeys. I've got monkey masks. Let me grab one real quick. They're not painted yet, but they're very because flying monkeys should be unsettling, but I don't know if you can see. There we go.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It is unsettling.
And they're remarkable. We're flocking them, so they're going to be velvety and
oh God.
Wow. And you are freezing up as you do that. The spirits have gotten there. The spirits have gotten there. So thank you. Thank you for that. So Comic-Con, everybody. I'm gonna miss you in Ohio by just days. I'm gonna be there the weekend before, but filming in some reformatory haunted something, I don't know. Coming up in August, I will be at Hexfest in New Orleans. I'm teaching 3 different workshops and a panel, and then I'm heading, where am I going? Somewhere. I have actually no idea where I'm going up. 2 places in August. And
Michigan Paracon.
Michigan Paracon. Thank you. Michigan. It's the big one. It's way high up in Sault Ste. Marie. Thank you, Courtney. You're
welcome.
Even if you don't watch the movie, you're staying here. And of course, check out University Magicus, where you can learn all this crazy magical stuff by people like Richard-Lael and myself. Spellcasting, mediumship development, all sorts of crazy, wonderful left of center things that we teach there. Again, go to Mystery Control. Check out my regular podcast, The Witching Hour, which people like these folks here are guests on. Drops a new one every Monday, everywhere you get podcasts. You can get it in video on my YouTube and on paraflix.com. Check out paraflix.com, all streaming, all horror, all the time. And other than that, like us, follow us, Tell us what you want us to see. Tell your friends and get a goat. Thing to do as we end. What do witches do? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.